I just finished 1000 Andariel runs in Diablo 2 Resurrected. This video will be a summary of the runs and more importantly, the drops. So why would anyone want to run Andariel in the first place? Aren't there much better bosses to farm? Well, for the most part yes, but I can think of 3 reasons to run her off the top of my head. She's a good target for some items, for example jewelry. She's easy to farm compared to some of the later bosses, both in that it's easy to reach her and the fight itself. And finally, variety is nice. If you're tired of running Mephisto over and over, it can be a nice change of pace to do a few Andariel runs. And yes, I'm aware of the irony of talking about variety in a video about running the same target 1000 times. So, why did I run her? Well, I really wanted a Talrasha's amulet as well as a Stone of Jordan ring. Besides, I just felt like doing some Andy runs, so I guess that's a 4th reason. Andariel has a glaring weakness in that her fire resist is absolute garbage, so I'm going to use the mighty fire sorceress to run her. But with a twist. As an additional challenge, I'm gonna start her off in very low budget gear. It will be fun and frustrating. Her gear consists of the following: some easy to make rune words, most notably the Spirit Sword, a socketed breastplate for a nice magic find boost, and then some pretty decent magic items which I spend about 10 minutes shopping for from merchants in town. The jewelry consists of a gambled amulet as well as 2 jade rings which I made from the cube, just for some poison resist. I started out as a pure fire sorceress, but I found the many fire immune enemies in the room to be very annoying with no way to deal with them. Partially because they block your spells and soak up damage for Andariel, but also since this sorceress is so undergeared and underleveled. Even a few hits from a regular fallen was a real threat to her. So in the end I settled for a Frozen Orb and Hydra hybrid, which helped smooth out the runs a lot even though you sacrifice damage by going for a hybrid. So that's her starting stats and skill points. Now, let's get to the loot. Already on my 2nd run, I found my first unique ring. It turned out to be a Ravenfrost with a very average roll. On the very next run, I found a nicely rolled Nagle ring. Now this was a really nice find for this sorceress, but I unfortunately did not manage to capture the footage, but it looked something like this.
Die, maggot! Die!
On run number 23, I found a weapon from the Talrasha set. This is the first perfect Talrasha's weapon I found, rolling +2 to each mastery. On run number 60 I found a nice upgrade for the sorceress, a Tarn Helm. +1 to all skills and some nice magic find is exactly what I'm looking for at this point. Very nice roll too. On run 73 I found Vampire Gaze, the unique Grim Helm. A solid roll on a solid helm, very nice for mercenaries. On run 106 I found a Valkyrie wing. Not the most commonly used helm, but one I really like for some reason. On run number 108 I find my first unique Grand Charm, which is of course Geed's Fortune. Not a very good roll, but it was the first for this character, so it was a nice upgrade. Then 20 runs later I found another one. I'm not complaining though, since this was a decent upgrade in magic find. And then just 4 runs later, I found yet another one.
Good to see you again.
I threw it out right away, but now while recording the voiceover, I noticed that it was almost perfect on the gold find. Oh well. Run 146 brought me another major upgrade. Frank's gloves with that sweet faster cast rate. The gloves together with a random faster cast rate amulet I found pushed me all the way to the 63% breakpoint. Calling this a major upgrade is an understatement. It was more like a heavy weight was lifted from my shoulders. Both teleporting to Andariel as well as the fight itself was so much smoother after this point. I will not be playing a sorceress that doesn't hit the 63% breakpoint for quite some time. With my newfound power on run 167 I found a Jalaz. Now, Druid is probably my least played class, but if I decide to make one, this will be a nice item for him. On run 189 I find a nice belt for the sorceress, only it's not for this build. Another Geed's Fortune drops on run 197. This time it was just absolutely terrible. But on the next run I found a nice little upgrade in gold wrap. While it hurts to lose the nice resist and life from the current belt, I'm all about that magic find. On round 203 I found a pair of Titan's Revenge as well as a green amulet. The Titans turned out to be a pretty average roll, but the amulet turned out to be Talrasha's. Nice. On round 213 it was time for another Geeds. One less magic find, but much better rolls on the other stats, so I kept this one. On round 219 I found Talrasha's helm. Usually not a very exciting drop, but this was actually my third piece from the set. Equipping the 3 Tal pieces would give me some nice minus to enemy fire resistance, but in the end I felt like I had to give up a bit too much, so I decided against it. On round 235 I find Triangle's shield. This item has quite a strange roll range, and this time we end up on the bottom of it. On round 238 I find an ethereal Templar coat, which is Guardian Angel. The ethereal version can be a nice mercenary armor if you're really looking to max out those resistances. Andariel drops a unique ring on round 249. Turns out to be a Nagel ring with 27 to magic find, a small upgrade but an upgrade nonetheless. On round 275 I had a really unexpected drop from the Fallen Pack in Andariel's chambers, a Vex rune. That's a really nice find and puts me very close for some real nice upgrades. On round 305 I find the first noteworthy jewel. You're usually hoping for the other ruby kind, but this is still a really nice jewel. On round 329 I find an item that has eluded me for quite some time. This is actually the first G phase I found since I started over, despite doing thousands of runs. The first pair of chance cards drops on round 348. As much as I would like the additional magic find, I'm not ready to give up the faster cast rate of my current gloves. On round 385 I find my first skiller with life. Just a shame it's a druid summoning one. On round 395 I find a unique pair of boots. Unfortunately the rolls on these water walks are not very good. I found another interesting jewel on round 408, though I'm not really sure how useful this is. Haven't seen many of them though. On round 429 I found a good weapon for the summoning necromancer, Arm of King Leoric. An amulet drops on round 445, it's the Rising Sun, which would have been a really nice upgrade if I hadn't already found the Talrashas. A unique ring drops on round 486, and it's a Carrion Wind. On round 507 I get another shot at rolling Triangle's Wing. A better roll than the last one, but it's not the biggest difference in actual numbers. On round number 535 I find a nice belt for melee characters in String of Ears. And this turned out to have a really good roll. There were so many drops during the course of these runs. I've selected some highlights to show in this video, but here's a few clips to give you a taste of what most of the drops looked like. On round 541 I found a Manald. On round 547 another Manald, on 559 a Dwarf Star, and on 562 a Crescent Moon. Oh wow. But of course it wasn't all bad. On round 571 I found a pair of Alder's boots. Not that it's the rarest item, but it's certainly useful and this was a pretty good roll. On the next run it was time for another Geeds. Pretty similar stats to the one I already had. On round 581 I found a rare ring which turned out to be a pretty nice faster cast ring. On round 608 I found a Gull rune. Another unexpected rune drop. I don't know why, but I pick up and identify every bone snap I find. Well, I guess that's why. Finding perfect items is such a nice feeling, even if it's just a trophy. More unexpected rune drops as I pick up a flawless topaz on run 613. This pole rune was a really nice find, since together with the Vex from earlier it opens up some really strong gear options. Heart of the Oak would probably have been a stronger upgrade for this particular sorceress, but I went with Flickering Flame since I've never made one before and I really want one. Low roll on the fire resist aura, but a good roll on the minus to enemy fire resistance, so I was quite happy with this roll. On run 640 I found a unique ring with kind of a funny roll. Highest possible roll on the attack rating, but lowest possible roll on the dex. On run 653 I found a unique bone shield. The faster cast rate made me reconsider my gear options, but I couldn't find a configuration I really liked, so I held off on gear changes for now. On run 715 I found a Blade of Alibaba. This could have been a nice magic find weapon switch, but I ended up not using it. On run 723 I found another skeleton themed shield. Lidless Wall with its 20 faster cast rate as well as the +1 to all skills was a really nice find. I equipped the Lidless and swapped out my gloves for some chance guards for a decent gear upgrade. On run 746 I found a nice pair of boots in Gore Rider. On run 755 I found another pair of chance guards. A good roll, and since I was now using chance cards, this was an upgrade. On run 797 I found a nice small charm that's really close to being a home run. If only the max damage had been higher. On run 822 I found an item that I had been waiting for, maybe even expected, for quite a long time. I finally found a pair of Mage Fists. 14 runs later, another solid upgrade dropped. I was finally able to replace my gemmed breastplate with a Skulder's Ire. On run 853, it was time for the last Geed's Fortune of these runs.
Greetings!
It turned out to be an all-around very good roll. On run 865 I had 3 rings from the same drop. That was of course quite surprising, but the unique was unfortunately only a Manald. More unexpected ring drops started on run 936 when I found a Ravenfrost. That's not so surprising, but on the very next run I found another Ravenfrost. I think this is the first time I've ever found 2 of the same unique 2 runs in a row. Another unique ring on run 970. This turned out to be a 28% Nagel ring, getting in some small upgrades at the end of the runs. On run 980 I found a High Lord's Wrath. On run 985 I found another Nagel ring with a high roll. And on run 986 I found another High Lords. We're closing in on the end of the runs, but there was still a major upgrade waiting for me. On run 988 I found the first Tal Rasha's belt. The reason this was so significant was that it let me equip 3 pieces of Tal Rasha without using the helm. This finally unlocked the nice minus to enemy fire resist on the wand, as well as pushing me over 300 total magic find. On run 999, Andariel sent me off with a final unique ring. Of course, it was just a Manald. Now let's take a look at the final stats and gear after the 1000 runs. All things considered, I think this project was very successful. So is Andariel worth it? Well, it depends. While I'm quite happy with the result of these runs, I do believe on average you will get better gear faster on a self-found character by running Mephisto if you can handle it. But if you feel like it, Andariel is definitely a solid magic find target. If you're looking to indulge in more Diablo 2 loot, Geed recommends that you watch this video next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.